All righty, welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Larkspur Planning Commission. Today's Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Happy Earth Day, 7 p.m. All right, so may we have a roll call? Present.
Commissioner Chalmers, Commissioner Wagstaff,
Present.
Commissioner Campbell,
Present.
and Commissioner Hull is absent tonight. You have a quorum.
Excellent. So this is the opportunity for public comment on matters that are not on the agenda for tonight. If there's any members of the public that wants to address us about any issues not on the agenda, this would be the time to do it. Anybody? All right, good. Let's move on. Any community development directors reports?
My only item to report is that the 30 Owlswood 21 Chevy Chase application has been appealed to the city council, and they'll be considering that appeal on May 7th.
Right. Okay. All right, public hearings. So let's start with 206 William Avenue, Brett Ashworth, owner applicant, APN 021-172-15, First Residential Zoning District, PLN 24046. Applications requesting modifications to the Planning Commission approval of PLN 24046. Proposed modifications include alterations to the floor plan of the second story, reducing the size of the bedroom at the front of the residence and the expansion of a room on the western elevation of the residence. The total square footage of the second story will increase from 930 to 960 square feet. And the modifications will require the following entitlements. Number one, design review to revise an approved second story floor plan, shifting square footage, which was approved at the front of the residence to the western elevation of the residence. The total square footage of the second story would increase, as I said, from 930 to 960. And an FAR exception to allow for a primary residence with a 0.546 FAR, where 0.40 is the maximum allowed. The prior planning commission action approved an FAR of 0.539. So this is asking for a little bit of an increase in that. Can we have a report?
Yes, give me just a second here. Okay, thank you, commissioners. Good evening. As you just said, the item before you is a modification of your prior approval of PLN 24-046 for 206 William Avenue. As a reminder, this is what the house looks like from the street on the left, and then the overhead view on the right with the property lines highlighted in blue. So the project seeks to modify your prior approval by removing square footage from the bedroom that's at the very front of the second story facing William Avenue and shifting it to a storage space on the western side of the home. And then that space is again expanded by an additional 30 square feet. So it would create a new 960 square foot second story residence where the prior approval was 930. And then here's a site plan where you can kind of see some of the differences just to highlight it. This is the old design on the left, and you can see that the wall has been pushed back. This does meet the 20-foot setback, so it would remove the setback variance that was approved as part of your prior approval. And then on the left side of the site plan, you can see the added square footage here. And then here is a revised second story floor plan, makes it a little bit more clear where the space is being increased in this storage area and where the space is being removed in this bedroom. In the front elevations, the changes are obviously the front bedroom is pushed back towards the lot. They have an extra roof area that's created on the western side of the residence. And then the roof above, I believe it's a laundry area and playroom, is being increased in height, and it'll more closely match the existing roof height of the existing first story of the residence. And then on the rear elevation, in addition to those changes I was talking about earlier, there's also a new shed roof that's proposed off the back here. The east elevation remains largely unchanged except for the reduced square footage at the front of the residence. And on the west, this is where you can see some of the changes to the ridge height of this existing area. It increases from, I believe, 12 feet to 14.5 feet. And then this is the new space created by the shifting square footage, which you might not be able to see on the overhead. My apologies. So this shift in square footage and the added square footage does increase the floor area. So you do need to approve a new floor area ratio exception. This is only a modest increase. It's requesting a 0.55 FAR where the prior was, I believe, a 0.54. That would be the 10th largest home overall in terms of total square footage. There's been no public comment on the project that you've received. And staff recommends that the commission hold a hearing, take public comment, discuss and approve the project subject to findings, conditions of approval, and a class 1 CEQA exemption. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and the owner is here as well. Thank you.
Great. Any questions for staff?
I had a quick question. You said it's the 10th largest floor area ratio?
Yeah, 10th largest home, I believe, in the.
Yeah, it must be percentage
Let me
because there's
pull it up.
way bigger houses.
Okay, I might have done the ordering of the
I saw
Excel
that.
sheet wrong. I can check that and give.
On William or?
In Heather Garden, you're talking about in Heather Gardens or just in?
It'd be the surrounding 300 feet
Oh, okay.
radius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Heather Gardens.
Okay, just,
But 10th out of how many properties?
Just a second.
I thought there wasn't that. Why did he say that?
Okay, let's see. Yeah, here, let me share the Excel sheet here with you. This is sort of smallest to largest, so the larger
this
properties are
one.
on the bottom here. But the proposed total square footage would be 2557. Yeah, that includes, there's an 190 square foot ADU.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's not ridiculously out of scale with things that are.
No, it's, yeah, very similar to the prior approval.
Okay. So any questions other than that, bro?
No, and you can ignore my question because I was thinking of a different property. I'm sorry.
All right, if we could hear from the owner?
Thank you for taking the time to review my application. Yeah, it's funny. The design changes came out of my last planning review session, right? The board or planning
Council.
review council
Mhm.
uh,
Commission.
yeah, provided some great feedback when
Star
I
Chamber.
Star Chamber.
Yeah, I go.
I'll go with that. Yep. Provide some great feedback when I presented the original project, and I was kind of in a rush to get it approved last time because there'd been some delays, right? So I took into account your feedback, and that's what you're looking at today. But thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Have you gotten any feedback from neighbors at all?
No.
They're aware of it, yeah.
Yeah, very aware. We're all, most of the neighbors, I'd say, if not all, are very communicative. I see them regularly, and that has been no issue.
Great.
I usually have questions, but you answered my only question, which was why did you make the change? But you've already answered that. So thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, let's bring it back. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I didn't know, I don't know the process all that well, but the condition of approval, right? There was one that was like a transition, to add a transition from the street to the driveway. And I don't know if that's up for debate because there's currently a transition from the street to the driveway. I mean, it's not perfect, but it has a drainage slot in it. And I don't know if that was the catalyst to asking for the adjustment. I don't know, but there's a little drainage slot in the current
Yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
this, a lot of the driveways there have that.
Yeah.
I can probably answer that because I live in Heather.
Yeah.
And I have the same slot and
Right.
it's a real pain in the neck because the leaves always get stuck at one end and then backs up the other
Okay.
direction. So there are better ways to do a driveway. I don't know whether that's what Public Works had in mind, maybe when
Oh,
they
right.
reviewed it, but the slot I did doesn't work real well.
Right. It works when there's no leaves, but then there's leaves and then it's
Yeah.
short, which is fine.
I don't know whether that's part of the,
Do you guys know? I mean, usually this is a public works issue,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a planning commission issue.
Yeah, I can punt the question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're talking about the frontage improvement requirement.
Yeah, I
The
was,
applicant will be required to remove the existing gutter infill and construct a Marin County approved driveway approach.
it's a good idea.
So what is your question?
oh, I mean, if it's not, if it's a way not to make it required,
So you,
Just-
you don't want to do that?
I didn't have any desire to do it.
Got it.
myself on my own, right?
Okay.
And if
Yeah.
it's
Then I
added
think the
cost-
question is this something that we can consider as a commission? And I assume,
I think it's a public works issue.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, we have
We have the building official here.
building
but
official here.
Oh,
that's
great.
why he's
Hi.
here.
Wouldn't be able to respond. to public
Yeah,
works.
so I think you've come here to address this. Maybe you could address. Is this something we should?
Standardize these transitions. If, you know, referring to the county, it's helpful that we enforce those types of standards.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you can talk with them.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, let's bring it back to the commission. I'll start with Brock.
I I think it's an improvement and I can support it.
Not to interrupt, did we take public comment?
Oh,
You
yeah.
want
Is there
that?
public comment? Sorry. No, that's good. We always like to hear from the public as opposed to Congress these days.
If you're on Zoom and you want to comment, please raise your hand. No.
Okay, great. All right.
So I think I can make the findings for the modifications.
Liam?
Yeah, likewise. I think some of the suggestions that we made last time were incorporated and I think it looks better than it did last time. So I can make the findings as well.
Natasha?
Yeah, I can also make the two sets of findings. I have no issues with the changes come in today.
And I am in concurrence. So maybe we can take a vote.
Motion?
I move to approve 206 William Avenue PLN 24-046, subject to the conditions of approval and staff report.
I can second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Wagstaff?
Yes,
Commissioner Campbell?
Yes.
Commissioner Swisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Chalmers?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hill is absent, so the motion carries. There is a 10-day appeal period during which time any member from the public can file an appeal with the city clerk by filing an appeal form and the appeal fee.
Great. All right, thanks. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is 64 Francis Avenue. Jennifer Haug, no G, just How, okay.
How?
Oh, Haug, okay. Applicant 64 Francis LLC owner, APN 020-061-11, R1 First Residential Zoning District, PLN 25008. Applicant is requesting the following permits to allow for the demolition of the existing residence and construction of a new 2,188 square foot two-story residence with 441 square foot detached two-car garage. Design review required for any new residence with a height of more than 20 feet above grade, a slope use permit to allow for 450 cubic yards cut and 100 cubic yards of fill. 300 cubic yards of that will be off-hauled. A variance to allow a 15-foot setback from Bio Vista Avenue where a 20-foot is required. A fence height exception to allow a 6-foot tall fence along Bio Vista Avenue frontage where 42 inches is the maximum allowed by code. A heritage tree removal to allow for the removal of one heritage-sized redwood tree, which is in the proposed footprint of the residence, and an FAR exception to allow a floor area ratio of 0.38 or 2,092 square feet when 0.163 is the maximum site allowed by code for that site. The garage, 441 square feet, and a portion of the first story of the residence, 96 square feet, are more than 50% below grade and are exempt from that floor area calculation. Could we have the staff report?
Yes, and I did just want to note, really quickly, we can get into it. I think the language of the square footage of the garage is a little old. It had to be expanded due to a fire department condition of approval, so it's 479 square feet.
Okay.
It should be reflected in the staff report.
Not 441. We're,
In the agenda, it says one thing in the staff.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think it's a little old in the agenda.
yeah.
So
okay.
yes, good evening again, commissioners. The item before you is PLN 25-008 for the property at 64 Francis. I'm sure this is very familiar. The property was before the commission twice in the last year
Mhm.
for a similar scope. As a reminder, you can see the project location, the overhead shots on the left with the property outlined in blue. And then there's the street view showing the house, and then the garage is somewhat hidden by the vegetation there on the right. So the project seeks to demolish the existing residence and construct a new 2188 square foot two-story residence and a 479 detached garage. As you mentioned, that requires approval of design review, slope use permit, a variance, fence height exception, heritage tree removal, and a floor area ratio exception. And here's the site plan. So the proposed residence is going to be in a similar location as the existing home. It was going to expand out towards Francis and just kind of touch where the existing garage currently sits. And then the proposed garage will be just directly across from what is the existing garage that will be demolished. And here are the floor plans. You've got the garage on the left. It's just a standard two-car garage. And then the lower floor plan of the residence on the right. And that's got the kitchen and living space. And then the upper floor plan here with the bedrooms and bathrooms. And then here's a front elevation, and I've included the rendering here. I think it kind of helps to show the depth as opposed to the 2D drawings. And this is the rear elevation that you'd see from Bayo Vista with the existing house outlined in the dark gray right there. And this is the east elevation. This would be seen by 60 Francis. And this is the west elevation that would be seen by 70 Francis. So it does require a floor area ratio exception. As you've noted, the allowed floor area ratio due to the slope is 0.163, where the standard is 0.4. The project is requesting a floor area ratio of 0.38 or 2,092 square feet. It would be the 7th largest floor area in the vicinity and the 16th largest home in terms of overall square footage of the surrounding 300 feet. So there is a setback variance that's requested similar to the prior application that was before you. As I'm sure the commission remembers, this is a double frontage lot, which means it has 2 front yard setbacks as opposed to 1 front and 1 rear. And so they are proposing a setback from Bayo Vista of 15 feet, 7 inches as opposed to the 20-foot requirement. The existing home is, I believe, 8 feet and change from the Bayo Vista property line. So it is an improvement on that condition. And I believe it's 25 feet from the actual paved right of way of Bayo Vista. So it does meet the intent of the setbacks. The project requires 450 cubic yards of grading to level the home and to dig the garage into the hillside. And approximately 350 cubic yards of that will be off-hauled. They've provided a grading plan and a geotechnical report that found it's feasible. And the project requires the removal of 2 heritage-sized trees. There's the one redwood tree that's in the footprint of the residence. And then there is a black acacia tree in the front yard that is a heritage size, but it's defined as a flammable tree. And the municipal code requires that while they have to apply for it, that the removal needs to be granted for fire safety. And the black acacia is right in the location of a proposed retaining wall in the front yard. And the fence height exception is very similar to the prior application. It's a 6-foot tall fence along the Bayo Vista frontage where it's normally limited to 42 inches because of the grade right where the property line meets the road. It's pretty much beneath the level of the road, not entirely visible. Not all 6 feet, I should say, will be visible above the street level. You've received 7 public comments on the application. There's been 2 in support, 5 in opposition. One of the 5 letters in opposition was signed by 7 neighbors. 2 of those neighbors also provided their own letter that's counted in that 5 letters in opposition. The letters in opposition cite generally concerns with the size of the residence, privacy impacts, and removal of the heritage redwood tree. That concludes my report. Staff recommends that the commission hold a public hearing, take public comment, discuss and approve the project subject to findings, conditions of approval, and a Class 3 CEQA exemption. The project architect is here and the owner's on Zoom if you have any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the staff report from commission?
I just wanted to clarify, you said there were 7 public comments. Is this on this application or are you talking about overall?
On this
On this
application,
one?
yeah.
Okay, so I think I missed one. Thank you. Okay.
Questions? Yeah. No, I have none. Okay. Could we have the architect?
Sure. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jennifer Haug, and I am the architect of record for the new 64 Francis Avenue project. The design approach that I took for the project was really to understand what it was that the previous iterations, what the biggest issues were with that. And so luckily, the neighbors in our Murray Park neighborhood wrote a letter that was dated November 7th, 2024. So just after the most recent iteration. As Alex said before, this will be the 3rd time that this project has been before the commission. And so my goal over the last 5 months was to really understand what were the design concerns that the neighborhood would be in support of, and how can I take sort of a more strategic approach to coming up with a design solution. And so one of the items that the neighborhood said that they would suggest was spreading out the mass of the home and reducing the overall size. As you may recall, the original house that was proposed on October 22nd at that meeting was over 4,000 square feet and included an ADU. The following house that was presented by the previous architect was 3,400 square feet. And then the 3rd iteration before I came on board was 3,300 square feet. And so the house that we have before you today is 2,188 with a 472 square foot garage that's below grade. And so one of the items that our neighbors outlined that they would be in support of is if the house were in the 2,200 square foot range. And so delivering a house that, one, meets the needs of the family. They have 2 children and 2 dogs. This is very much a family home. Having 2 toddlers myself, I understand that there needs to be some design consideration for everyone's sanity. And so providing garage space and enough space both within the house and around the house, this is the design solution that we came up with. And so when I first started my project, I originally started in communication with some of the closest neighbors in wanting to understand sort of based on their letter, the 2,200 square feet, the spreading the mass across the center of the lot, and their support in general of removing the large redwood tree that was sort of the design basis of the previous iteration. So these things were the basis of my design. And so over the last 5 months, I've had 7 Zoom conversations with the neighbors, and I feel like the neighbors have been very supportive. The current design at 2,188 with a 472 square foot garage that is below grade, meets both what the family is asking for and I believe what the neighbors are in support of. We have recently received some feedback about some of the acacia trees that will need to be removed off of the Francis Avenue right of way because they are a fire hazard. And so that comment came from the Central Marin Fire Department on April 4th. And so unfortunately, we had to really scale back a lot of the existing trees that are there today, but the design team is committed to work with the fire department as well as with the planning commission to figure out what the right plant-based screening solutions would be for the front yard. Because as we all know, Murray Park is a very heavily, densely wooded area, and having to remove some of these mature trees because one, they are a fire hazard. Replanting the appropriate species is mutually beneficial, both for my clients as well as for the neighborhood at large. And so that was one comment that we received. Another comment that we received had to do with another fire comment, which was about the zone 0. As you know, with our new fire department code, with any new construction within 5 feet of the building footprint, there can be no vegetation, and that is purely from a fire and life safety perspective. And so one of the concerns that we received from the neighbors was just the concern that there would not be a lot of that again, green screening around the lot or around the perimeter of the house. And, you know, from my perspective, you know, as a design professional, I feel like I understand the neighbor's concern, but we have to meet fire code, and we are willing to work with both the commission and with the fire department to figure out what are the right species and at what distance. Let's see. I think that's what I wanted to share. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Take it back to commission for questions. I'll go start with you. Well, when you reduced from 3,300 to the 22, so I actually have one question. The letter that we got, that the letter signed by the multiple families here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's dated April 22nd.
Today.
That's today.
Yes.
Yeah. Did that letter predate you're reducing it to the 2,200? Because it seems like in this letter that the letter would imply that it's still 3,300 square feet. I mean, is that, as I read it, they're saying that they want it, because I remember one of the comments that I made the last time was I would have liked to have seen it reduced by about a third to about the 2,200 square foot, which it seems like you've done.
We've reduced it 25%.
Yeah, 25%.
To 2188.
Right,
So-
which,
So I think the question is, was this letter sent having seen the current design?
Yes. And so as I said before, the neighbors have been engaged along the design process. The first meeting that I had with the immediate neighbors was on December 2nd, and then which was with the 70 Francis family. And then the next meeting that I had was on January 9th, again with the 70 Francis family. And then the next meeting was on January 16th, January 21st, January 31st, March 7th, and then April 16th, once the plans were submitted. And so there were 6 meetings with the neighbors prior to my submitting the final plans. And then there was one follow-up meeting that was just last week with the neighbors. And so the neighborhood was invited, and only 2 neighbors showed up. And so overall, I would say the engagement from my perspective has been very I've made a good faith effort at reaching out to neighbors and sending out Zoom calls, mailing letters, providing all of my contact information and being available. I would say that for the neighbors that have participated, we have had some very good conversations. I would say that not all of the neighbors have been responsive to phone calls or emails or Zoom invitations or letters. So,
Okay.
I had a question, maybe this is for staff, but so my understanding, because I kept the drawings from before, the countable FAR before was 2,093 square feet. And this is 2,000, this is 2,082 square feet.
So
So is that correct? So in terms of countable, there's a 10-foot difference?
yeah, the FAR is largely the same. There's been a lot of areas that didn't count towards FAR that have been removed. So I think overall, we're talking total square footage, the reduction is like 650 square feet
Yeah,
thereabouts.
I got that.
The FAR is, yeah, I mean, it's been slightly reduced.
Here's a simple question is, one of the letters was referring to the story poles not being correctly installed. Is that correct?
yes. And so the story pole installation, this latest iteration is exactly the same as it has been the last 2 times before. And so we have installed the story poles according to the City of Larkspur's standards. And there were no comments we received previously about the story pole installation. And so receiving this story pole comment was surprising because they are exactly the same as we did them before.
And that's correct.
Yeah, yeah, they did a similar style. I've been out to the site to look at them. They appear accurate based on the storybook plan.
Okay, thank you. No, it's the public comment, I
So
guess.
public, okay, is opportunity for the public to comment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And when you come up, just introduce yourself and thanks.
Hello, my name is Katie Johansson Tabor. I live at 70 Francis Avenue. I wanted to just provide a couple of clarifications about the letters that the neighbors have written, and then my husband has some more specific comments from his and my point of view. So the letter that was just submitted today was reiterating some of what was in the previous letter that was dated last fall. And one of those things, just to set the record straight, is that the average square footage between the 40 and 80 block of Francis, total square footage, including garages, is 2,200. And so in both letters, we encouraged the applicants to get to a total square footage of 2,200, not 2,100 plus an almost 500 square foot garage. We also encouraged them to try to get down to the neighborhood average, the 40 to 80 block of Francis FAR. The average FAR is 0.26. So we did encourage in both the previous letter and the one that was submitted today that the applicants conform to that neighborhood average, mainly because this is I think it would be the 3rd largest home on the 40 to 80 block on the 2nd smallest lot. So we were really felt like we were actually being quite generous in saying, keep it to the neighborhood averages between 40 and 80 when those averages are actually for bigger homes and bigger lots. Thanks.
I brought some pictures. That you can do, just because it helped me to visualize it. So, and this is specific to our home. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to speak. Hi, I'm Todd Tabor. My wife and I live at 70 Francis Avenue.
Katie right there, immediately to the west of this. And I did want to say, like, first, like, I do appreciate Jennifer's approach. And we appreciate that this is slowly scaling down. And we've made ourselves available to meet with her many, many times. I think it's not quite there yet. It's still pretty invasive to our privacy and the relationship. So we've lived in our home for 12 years. And like the applicants, we chose to buy that home knowing full well what we signed up with Larkspur and knowing the code. They chose to buy this home on a very small lot. And the code specifically spells out that there are a lot of limitations when you choose such a small lot. The FAR is reduced. You have to be able to build around heritage trees. Unfortunately, us included, we just can't have it all. And we think this still asks for a lot. And I think that letter you saw today that was signed by 7 families, those are all the immediate neighbors on either side and directly across the street, are asking for, I think, some reasonable revisions to this. So we think this still is going to take away a lot of things. Like we're going to lose a big, beautiful redwood. It will take away a lot of the established greenery on the frontage of Francis. And I think that rendering that we just saw here this morning, I think that's a new one that Alex had on the screen.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a lot of concrete walls there where there was once greenery. So I'd love to see that again myself. Specific to us, it'll really reduce my wife and I's privacy in the rear of our home and the privacy of our neighbors across the street. And this is going to be really disruptive. So we believe that the code is a contract between all of us, the citizens, and the city. And when we buy our homes, we kind of accept that. And we think it's the city's obligation to really protect us all. This code was written, people slaved over it to figure out exactly what it should say. And so we're just asking you to please enforce it strictly. I think with the new California law that says you can build an 800 square foot ADU, lots can get overbuilt very, very quickly. And that is a concern of ours. We also think, like, when you tear down a structure, when we first met with Jennifer, she mentioned this would be a remodel. We thought that was great because it would preserve the house. It's now a complete tear down. And if you tear it down to the basis, I think you have to start from scratch and you have every opportunity to conform to the code. The old house that's on the lot right now, it got there through several modest, additions and things that came before this commission over 35 years. This house does not comply. Otherwise, they wouldn't need 5 different exceptions and variances. We do understand the code allows for exceptions for lots with steep slopes. If it does not overbuild the lot, if they use mass reducing techniques, and if they're sensitive to the neighborhood and the neighborhood character. For us, like, I think, exceeding the FAR by 2.5, that would qualify as overbuilding the lot. Like my wife said, the average home on this block is 2,200 square feet all in, garages, everything. Commissioner Swisher, at the last meeting, what I heard in the minutes was you said reduce the project from 3,300 by 1/3. So the project in total, we believe, at 2,200 square feet is actually reasonable for this. And that would still exceed the FAR, but we understand that and we'd be okay with that as a whole project. So as proposed, it's the 3rd largest home on the block, 40 to 80, if you were to approve it. And the only homes that are bigger on lots that are 2 to 3 times the size. One thing I did want to note is, like, right now the FAR they're asking for is 0.38. Like, if you were to actually get rid of the different exceptions like the county does and look at total square footage, that would boost it to 0.48. And that goes greater than the standard for flat lots, which is 0.4. So effectively, like, I don't know what the other definition of overbuilding would be other than exceeding what would be for a flat lot on a slope lot. Specific to us, there are several large windows facing our home that look into our front and rear yards. And we would just ask that those could be removed or rethought to be less invasive. Also, the rear pitch of the shed roof, you'll notice it goes straight up. Like, for us, it would be less objectionable if you could possibly do more of a hipped roof. That like the net size of roof increasing will decrease then. And lastly, like this project, by doing all these exceptions is going to be incredibly invasive. 450 cubic yards of earth being removed and then 100 brought back. I mean, I Googled, or I actually asked AI, I should be truthful. Like, an average dump truck is 13, it's about 100 cubic yards, less than 100, I'm sorry. It's like 13 cubic yards. This would be over 30 full-size dump trucks going back and forth on a really narrow street. I don't see plans here to mitigate dust, to protect adjacent property, retaining walls, cars parked in the street. So we're definitely not anti-development, but we're asking this project to be made smaller, be more in line with the neighborhood norms, and really, stay consistent with the neighborhood character The 300 feet average it's just not representative because it goes into the county after one house, and those are all much bigger homes. So we're asking you to, ask these applicants to please reduce the total square footage of the project to no bigger than 2,200 square feet. Remove the windows on the west elevation and rethink them so they don't infringe on our privacy. Replace that front greenery. I know a lot of people are concerned, and when I saw the elevation, well, I guess I'm talking, so it's not there. When I saw the new elevation from the front, it's a ton of concrete. Like, it should be more representative of the neighborhood. And since it is Earth Day, like, we have a heritage oak on the back of our property that is right on the property line. It has a 9-foot critical root base or critical root zone that's called out in the arborist report. We would request that be protected, just like other trees are protected. So we'd like to see that. And lastly, I do. Someone asked about the story poles. I live right next door, so I've been able to study them. But we've had numerous neighbors come up who have said they're challenging to read. So I don't know if I'd be curious if they've been verified by a surveyor. I don't know if there's flags that could be hung on them or something, but just to be able to see the total perspective, because this house is challenging with the current greenery, but that greenery is going to go away. And I think even just the photo renderings that you see actually of that final rendering that's done like photography, I think it's on page A4.4, that's taken from the focal point's about 20 feet in the air. Like, how do we look at this from Francis Avenue? So it would be really helpful to get a great picture for everyone. And then lastly, I think, like, you'll notice on the drawings that I gave you here is it really would help us all, myself, somebody Francis, my wife, to get what is the relationship of this with our homes, because it's challenging. So we'd ask, like, can we see, in this, what I gave you here, this handout, like, can we see like our homes projected here so we can understand the relationship? These windows do look into our backyards. On the second page, I just followed the story poles here. And so that's the size of this box. I don't have the technology to put the windows in there, but it would be really helpful to see some renderings to understand. That's on page 2 of the thing you've got here. It looks to us like those 2 windows are going to look right into our backyard, where we spend a lot of time. We have a small house, and our back deck is kind of a second living room. So it would be helpful if those upper windows would be rethought. What I was talking about here is on page 3.
Approaching 8 minutes now.
I'm sorry?
It's approaching 8 minutes now.
Sure. No worries. So I'll wrap it up. So page 3 here, you can see like the elevation that we saw here. This is what was submitted on the left. That's from very high in the air. Like, we'd love to see what it looks like from Francis Avenue, so all the neighbors can know. And then I think that new rendering that we saw today with the greenery removed and retaining walls, is it possible to put that on the screen real quick? I think it's a big contrast, and people need to know what they're signing up for. Yeah, there's is that the new one? It looks like some significant retaining walls there. Again, that's higher too. So I'd love to, I think people deserve to see what it actually is and have time to react to this. This was just submitted today, I believe. Is that true? Right. So I know I've gone over my time. So on page 4, it's just like, you can see, like, it is significantly more massive than the current house. I just shaded in so you could see it's twice as wide. It's going to be very apparent, especially looking upward from the street. And then lastly is just that tree I mentioned that we'd love some protection for. So again, like, we appreciate that this house continues to get closer, but we do think we'd appreciate if you guys could guide the applicants to further reduce it, to bring it in line with what the neighborhood is hoping for, and to be more in line with the way the code is written. So thank you very much. Appreciate you all.
Zoom, I believe, is the owner. No other hands raised though.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Great. Hi, it's Hal from 64 Francis. I appreciate everyone's time. I'm sorry I'm unable to make it there today, but we are out with spring break for the kids. And so number one is I just really want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Alex and Elise, who have been very helpful to us and spending a lot of time on the redesign. And so Jennifer has spent 7 meetings with all the neighbors, And just from the letter that you received today on 4/22, I just want to caveat that many of them have not shown up to any of the meetings. Raymond, Baram, Eddie, Marjan, Christy, Carlo. So I guess I'm just, we gave them so much time and feedback to give us these radiations of feedback. One thing I will say is that we've listened to the planning commission. Commissioner Swisher, you asked us to reduce the house, reduced it by 25%. Commissioner Chalmers, you mentioned that 2691 is a family home and we are below that square footage. We listened to the letter. They said that you guys would support removing the redwood tree, which we're doing. Now there's comments about the redwood tree again. The story poles that they're talking about have been verified by the planning team that Alex just confirmed. And so they're asking for more and more renderings, which is actually what the story poles are supposed to do. And so they're asking us to keep the acacia trees when the fire department has asked us to remove them. So we're just really trying to follow the fire code. And so, we've worked really hard to work together, and Jennifer has done an amazing job. And so the house is in the same position. We've done a lot of mass reducing techniques and we've given it our best faith effort. But I think at this point, we're just wondering, after 7 meetings, a lot of folks that signed the letter that didn't even come to a meeting, give any feedback. It just feels a little not in my neighborhood NIMBYism. And so I just want to caveat, this is our 4th redesign. This is our 4th redesign. We have a brand new architect. So we're really putting our best foot forward, and we just hope we can move forward with everything that we've done, which we think is very reasonable. Where the garage is today is in a very similar location to Todd and Katie's garage on 70 Francis. And we need 2-car parking because we spoke to Alex and Elise, and DPW will not allow any parking exceptions. So we're following all the rules. The back of the house is actually further away from Bayo Vista. So I really thank you for your time, but I just want to mention that because we've tried really hard. We walked away from that 11/12 meeting, a meeting that I will never forget, and my daughter will not forget as well, because it was a very negatively charged meeting. So we're just trying to move forward very positively. And we just feel like, what else can we do? We're listening to the planning commission, and you guys are the ones that make the decision. And we just hope that we are not going to keep getting, honestly, like bullied. That's kind of how it's starting to feel.
Right. Now, architect, Ms. Howe.
Alex, can we see the southern elevation? Can you pull up my drawing set? Because on all of the exterior elevations, I show exactly where the existing house is today, where the proposed is, and what it looks like and what it would look like superimposed. And so, the approach that I took with working with the neighbors and responding to the November 7th letter was to really take a renovation approach. And so the front of the house where it is today is where the front of the new proposed house is. There is a new single-story addition that is where the existing 48-inch diameter redwood tree is. And so that's where the new space is. The upper floor steps back per the Planning Commission's design guidelines. And so you can see the outline of where the existing house is today and where the existing garage is today. I can point. And then this is where the existing house is now. And so the new addition in the mass is here and above. And so we've moved the garage mass that is above grade, and we have put it so that it is located in a location that is easier for the family to access with their 2 vans for their family, closer to the grade. And so the garage where it is located today is just not usable for the family. Making the steep drive and turn to get into the 2-car garage and then to back out of it is untenable for the family as it exists today. And so, as the homeowners, they have tasked me to figure out a way to utilize this site to follow all of the requests that the neighbors said they would support, which is what I have done. And so, in response to Todd's comment about the western elevation and reducing some of the window sizes, that was done. The sill heights are up above 5 feet, and so they're really just transom windows. There will be no visual access into their living space or outdoor patio space. And so that comment was received a couple of meetings ago, and that elevation was revised then. And so the comment has already been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So any other public comments? Great. Let's bring it back to the commission. Again, sure.
Okay, one was about the windows, and you've just addressed that. The other one was, I didn't see a plantings sheet in here, right? Did I miss that?
There are 4 landscape sheets, L1 through 4. And so they have been revised per the fire department's comments that we received.
Oh, here they
The
are.
comments were dated April 4th. We received them on April 7th. We resubmitted on April 15th.
Well, maybe just recap. So given that the acacia trees are coming out.
Yes.
And given that they are not, they shouldn't stay in
Permissible.
place, right? Because of the fire department.
Yes.
Are you putting in new trees?
Yes. And so there are 2 new trees. I don't know if we can bring up our new landscape sheet L1. So there will be 2 new 36-inch California live oak trees that we have shown on the plan. And so one of the fire department's comments was that at full maturity, the trees canopies need to be 30 feet apart from one another. And so, so we've had to significantly reduce the amount of trees. All of the black are removed. And so this tree and this tree are the new proposed. And so part of the work that we will be doing is figuring out with the fire department which species they would approve for some hedging or some other screening so that we can provide that visual privacy both to the neighbors and to the owners.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And then there was a request about the heritage oak tree on the property line. And I'm not sure if that's a reasonable request or not. I have no idea, but I just was curious if you could address it.
Sure. And so there, Alex, can we bring up the zone 0? I think it's sheet L2. And so this is the zone 0. I believe the existing redwood that that Todd is requesting is T9. It is right outside of that 5-foot setback. Currently, the existing home as it exists today is has a 6-foot setback, which is code.
You could grab the mic.
Oh. Yes. And so currently the existing house is shown where it is today. And there is a 3-foot wide exterior stair. And so we are demolishing that stair and keeping this footprint of where the existing house is. And so the 5-foot zone 0, no planting zone here, the existing redwood tree T9 exists right outside of that. And so it is our intention to maintain it. It was one of our early conversations that I had with the Tabors in December about how important this tree was for providing that mutually beneficial screening. I think that's the tree you're
How-
talking about
How about the
I
oak tree
think.
that's
I think it-
on, it's red.
on their property line.
T14, I think it was.
Oh, sure. Is that tree on which property line? Okay,
From it was, it's not both the trees on the forms there, it does not, or I'm sorry, on your, or on your drawings.
okay.
Right, it does not show tree protection for either of those.
Oh.
And the arborist notes that there is a 9-foot critical root zone for the oak.
Okay.
So all my concern. They are great privacy screens, and we appreciate you. I appreciate your intent.
Sure. Sure. I believe that is shown, the tree protection on the erosion control plan. It's pretty early on in the set, Alex.
There's a T14 oak.
It's probably the second or third page in the entire sheet, right at the beginning. I want to say it's like 0-2. Oh, sorry, next one. So I have one tree protection plan over T9, but I'm not showing T protection or the protection over T9, just T14 because it's not on the property. But I can add that. Okay.
I appreciate you addressing that.
Sure. Great. Yes. Yes.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Brock?
No, I don't have any questions.
We're going to close the public.
Yeah, so bringing it back to the commission, this is we're closing the public. I don't know how I would do without you, you know that? You're amazing. He's a lawyer. We're closing the public and we're bringing it back to the commission. So Brock says he has no further questions, comments? Oh, no, but how about comments?
I think I'm going to let other people comment first, but I would say that in general, this is not a big house. You know, it's a 2,100 square foot house. So,
All right, I'm gonna sort of rattle down the list of the requests, some of which we've already, I think, discussed at this body. So slope use permit is where I'll start. I think that I can make the findings for a slope use permit for this project. It's on a sloping lot. They're proposing to put things underground. They have a stamped geotechnical report, an engineer that's agreed to that. I would anticipate that during construction, they would use temporary shoring to make sure that there's not, issues with slope stability during construction. And then after it's constructed, the engineers will confirm that the walls are strong enough to hold up the slope. So I don't see an issue with that, and I think I can make the findings for a slope use permit. Variance for the setback from Bahia Vista Avenue. I think we covered this before, where this lot is unique, to the city of Larkspur, where it's got 2 front yard setbacks. I think I am comfortable with requiring 1 front yard setback and 1 rear yard setback. So I think I can make the findings for a setback variance from Bahia Vista Avenue. For the fence height, similarly, that I think stems from the front yard, backyard distinction. And so a backyard, if this was a backyard, that would not require a fence height exception. So I think I can make the findings for that as well. The heritage tree removal, it's a beautiful tree. I think it's unfortunate that it's proposed to be removed. I like the tree, but we've seen some other designs that didn't remove it. And I think that sort of what we've discussed here and what we've discussed with folks in the public is that when you don't remove the tree, it sort of impacts how the house can be designed. And so I think, it is most definitely unfortunate that a beautiful tree might be removed, but I think that given the public comments that we've heard, I think that we may not have a choice to get a house that the applicants and neighbors are comfortable with. So I guess the main one that I think we're talking about here is the floor area ratio exception and the design review. So floor area ratio, I feel like we say this every meeting. On sloping lots in Larkspur, it is. I think we looked at some of the existing properties in Larkspur, and somewhere around like 90% of them are at least somewhat over the floor area ratio for the lot.
Yeah.
Because we have a very restrictive floor area ratio requirement for sloping lots. I think I agree with Brock that 2,100 feet above grade is 2,200, excuse me, is I think a fair sized house for Larkspur. And I do appreciate that the garage has been pushed underground because it reduces the visual impact to me. So I think, I think I'll take into consideration what my fellow commissioners have to say, but, I think that it seems reasonable because it's a small lot. It's not, a 4,000 square foot house, which is what we were presented with 6 months ago. And design reviews sort of similarly follows. I think, the materials and exterior finishes are, I guess I don't take issue with those. So those are my thoughts. I'll see what you guys think.
Natasha.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying that just the comment that Commissioner Chalmers had talked about a 2,600 square foot house being a family-sized house. Yes, I did say that. However, I feel that comment was taken out of context because I did continue to say that it's really, that may be true, but you have to look at the size of the lot. And you have to compare that to what the actual, whether or not that even fits in a lot. And that's what we were looking at here. So I guess that sort of soundbite was taken out of context, and I wanted to address that. But back to the what's requested tonight. I don't have much to add actually to what Liam. I think you were very eloquent in going through each and every item on. No, it was excellent. I mean, you addressed the design review, slope use permit. I totally agree with you on what you were saying on the variance and the fence height exception. I think we discussed at length previously and had approved it previously, and same with the variance at the back. Obviously, the new one tonight is the heritage tree removal, which even came out of as a suggestion that came out of one of the meetings, trying to take into consideration the neighbors and making this house work on this small lot. And I hate to see the tree go. I think the tree is beautiful. I hate to see any trees go. I would encourage you to replant as much as you can within fire department requirements, obviously. And I appreciate what the current architect has done in terms of trying to redesign this house to make it work. So I'm actually very much sort of in favor of what we see here tonight. So, I was looking at the garage and wondering if we could make it smaller, if that could reduce it. But I think that's an average sized garage. I don't think you can if you're going to fit 2 cars in there and get them off the street.
Okay, I'll now chip in here.
Okay.
So I think there's been an attempt to make as little impact as possible and still have a reasonable size house to live in. And I'd also like to point out, which hasn't been, is that the house is considerably below the height limit. If you look at any of the drawings, even the one that was brought up to us, you can see where the height line is, and the house is quite a bit below it. So it's a fairly low profile house. And you know, as everybody has said so far, my only real problem is that I would love to save the redwood tree, although I wouldn't want a redwood tree that close to my house. So I can understand the need to take it out, and I think I could make that finding. So I'm okay with what they've done and in support.
All right, I guess I get to go last. So let's start with, I think Liam said it again very eloquently, design review. I think it's a well-designed house. I think that the changes that have been made satisfy good design review criteria, and I have no issues about that. As far as the slope use permit, you know, I too would be concerned about the number of yards of fill that have to be taken out. I think that has to be managed carefully with a good construction plan, and you know, we've had a similar situation on Owlswood, the number of square, you know, of cubic yards of dirt that have to be taken out for that property. So this is something that's fairly common on slope lots in Larkspur. And so I think, you know, I would just encourage that, you know, dust mitigation efforts are taken carefully, and that, you know, consideration for the neighbors as far as when the trucks move, but that's a part of the construction management plan. As far as the slope, as a variance, again, I have no problem with, we discussed this last time about the setback, no issues there, nor with the fence height exception. I too, you know, would hate removing trees, but as Brock says, having a tree that close to your house, and having personally undergone 4 massive redwood trees, which dwarf this one, fall on my house last year, and basically take out a good third of my house. I can really sympathize with removing trees that are dangerous. And I think that in this situation, I think we've litigated this at the last one, and I think all agreed that we would agree to heritage tree removals as much as we hate removing trees. As far as the acacias go, they are fire hazards, and I mean, you know, all we have to do is see what happened in Southern California to know that we need to mitigate that problem, because it's just a matter of time that Larkspur is going to have a fire. I mean, it's just going to happen in sometime in our lifetime. So as long as the trees that are put in are well thought out and will provide screening. I like the fact that those are transom windows and they're not looking into your yard. And I agree with you. I think that would be very invasive to you to have somebody looking right down into your yard. But as long as they're transom windows, I don't think that's a problem. I mean, somebody would have to get up on a step stool to look down into your yard off of those windows. So I think that's not a problem. And also, they can also put opaque glass in there if it is a problem. Yes. Did you want to make a point? Yeah, you talk with the architect. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's as I say in all these things, it's an ongoing conversation during construction with you and the architect and the owners, et cetera. And I think that's what makes good neighbors, that you do communicate. Yeah. So I'm sorry. And then as far as the FAR, I mean, as Liam says, we've constantly struggled in Larkspur with the whole issue of FAR on sloped lots, and construction plans. Construction methods have really changed over the time that Larkspur first initiated the FAR for sloped lots, and it would obviously not allow you to build the majority of houses that are currently on slope lots in Larkspur. If you go up, let's say, any of the canyons, they far exceed the FAR that are allowed for the property because of that. The good news is they're not on stilts anymore the way they're building, and it's not dangerous. I mean, again, I'll refer to my house, which has a slope and an FAR. We had to put in like 20 piers 60 feet into the ground to make it, you know, buildable. And I mean, there's probably more money underground in my house than there is above ground. But so I think given that, I don't think it's unreasonable to allow an FAR. And I think we do as a commission have to revisit the whole issue of the FAR for sloped lots, which we will be doing in the future. So again, I can make the findings for this FAR, given that the garage is under grade, it's a reasonable sized garage, and it's not going to impact. So I think it's a 2,200 square foot house, and it's a reasonable house. So in summary, I can make the findings for this.
I've got a couple things. So the first one is I mean, have you guys given any thought to replanting a redwood tree? I know you've got 2 live oaks going in, but I mean, seems like I don't know, we're taking out a redwood tree. Maybe we should put one back.
Well, we just received this comment from the fire department not long ago. And so the revised landscape plan is still under construction. And so we can definitely consider replanting a redwood tree, perhaps in the right of way closer to the Francis Avenue right of way. That would be great.
Yeah. Just be sure that, because sometimes they don't like redwood trees because they burn too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just something to consider.
Yes.
Anyway,
doesn't?
yeah.
And then the other thing is, it looks like, yeah, it looks like, I think it's on is that the east side, right? That's the side that we're all looking at. It looks like one of we're looking at the west elevation, I guess. And there's 3 windows, like sort of 2 small ones and 1 bigger one. Maybe you can pull that up, Alex.
Mhm.
They want to be.
Yeah, this is the one that faces your house, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, so there's 2.
It shows.
So I'll just share the measurements here
Sure,
above
sure,
the
sure,
finished
yeah.
floor with you. The 2 higher ones are, 5'9" above finished floor, and then this middle one is 3'6" above. So this one is
Oh, it's not.
less of it. I think
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Okay.
And what about the other 2?
They're high.
It's like
Oh,
taller than me. So
Okay.
theoretically, a 6-foot tall man could look under, but these are planned as children's bedrooms.
Yeah.
And so probably in about 15 years, hopefully one of them will be taller.
So, yes.
I would just note that the plans don't specifically state that that's going to be an opaque window. So if the commission wants to ensure that, it should be at.
I would hope that's an opaque window.
Yes, in a bathroom. Yes, I hope so. I mean, for the Tabor's sake. Yes.
Can I just ask a process question? Is that something just, and this is just my unfamiliarity, is that something when you make your motion, you will say with X conditions?
Yes. Yes, we would just make that a condition. Yeah. All right. So given that, I think we should make a proposal.
All right. Let me get everything straight. Okay, I move to approve the application at 64 Francis Avenue, PLN 25-008, subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report and the condition that the bathroom window on the west elevation be frosted. To cover everything we had. Do we want to add
Or opaque, yeah.
or frosted or opaque?
do you want to add replanting of the redwood tree if
No.
approved by the fire department? Or no?
No, I think that's a design issue for the landscaper. Personally, I feel that that's up to the landscaper. I don't think necessarily you have to put a redwood tree in because
Okay. Just going by Liam's suggestion.
That's fine. Sure. Okay,
That's
then
my opinion.
Motion complete. Oh, do I have to
You-
go through all that?
It doesn't, does it?
I think you do.
No,
I
right?
think I just said I'm approving this application, so.
Yeah,
as
based on the
it
findings and
includes these.
conditions in the staff report. with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Modifications that you
As
made.
written, yeah, with that modification.
I'll
for the
second
opaque
it.
window. Okay, all right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Wagstaff,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes,
Commissioner Swisher,
Yes,
Commissioner Chalmers,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hull is absent. So the motion passes 4-0. And there is a 10-day appeal period. And any member of the public can appeal the approval of this application by filing the appeal form and the appeal fee with the city clerk.
Great. I want to really say I want to appreciate the Tabor's coming, all the neighbors coming, and your work in getting to everybody together, because that's, hopefully you can continue to do that in the process.
Yes,
All right. Thank you.
thank you so much.
All right, moving on. Our next item is 25 Onyx Court.
I'll just save your breath here. The owner withdrew the application
Oh,
today, so that's no longer on the agenda.
oh, did we know that?
Now you know it.
Did you know that?
I knew that.
Why did you know that?
Because you were the last one to arrive.
Because we're special.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you guys were keeping it secret from me. It's like, okay, the idiot who's the chairman, we're not going to let him know anything. All right, so that's removed. Okay, so be it so noted that the applicant removed the agenda item for 25 Onyx Court. All right, then we'll move on to D, general plan conformity finding for potential sale of 880 square feet of city-owned parcel between 320 and 330, what?
That's going to be continued too, so you don't need to,
That's continued.
that'll
but-
be continued, or
All right.
it's not going to be heard tonight.
Okay. Oh, I see. The item will be continued to May 27th and will not be heard at this meeting. All right, there you go. I can read. Business items. Let's move on to that. Let's approve the March 25th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Correct.
All right.
I had
It does.
I read them. And I can't find my minutes. Hang on. Yeah, I think on page 10, you've got, you talk about acting chair Chalmers, and then in the 1, 2, 3rd paragraph, and then I think you mean somebody else when you say Chalmers reiterated. I think you may have meant Mr. Horat or someone else. No. Anyways, that's not me.
Okay, let's change that.
I-
You can just change it to someone else.
Someone-
Okay, anything else?
I think it's you, Alex, actually, that made that comment. Yeah, okay, that was it.
Any other modifications to the March 25th minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the March 25th minutes?
I'll move to approve the March 25th minutes.
I'll second, subject to the amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay. All in favor was there? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Are there any planning commissioner reports?
Yes, Brock has one.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit, but I think we would like to pursue the slope issue sort of formally in some sort of way, and maybe that involves somebody that we bring in, the city brings in. I'm happy to be involved, but just somebody who has a sense of all these communities, what they're doing, how they're dealing with it. I mean, I know some of them, and our slope ordinance gets us every time. And
Mhm.
and it's really hard to decide where it's okay, where it's not okay. So, you know, most cities that I've dealt with don't have slope ordinances like that, where you get down to 0.05% or whatever it is.
Yeah, you basically are having to violate your own rules constantly.
Yeah, all the time.
Which isn't good.
I think it leaves it up to, feels like it leaves it up to us to be the arbiters of what's too big. Well, I mean, in the end you are, but a lot of these are, you know, if we had a rule where it's like,
Yeah.
we could follow
Yeah.
the,
So I think we've talked about
Easier.
exploring this for a long, long time, and we haven't. And I think it needs to be taken on by either staff, or if there's somebody, a professional consultant that can come in, if there's a budget for this, we should look at
Definitely
it
no budget for
properly.
this, But staff can work on it.
Yeah,
I
it's just
think the
something we
next
need to
item is
do.
The subcommittee.
Yeah,
So what we would recommend is maybe forming a subcommittee of 2 planning commission members, so that we have the staff can work on it, but we have someone that we can talk to on planning commission to get some feedback. And then when we bring something back, it doesn't have to be, like, it'll already been hashed out a little bit, so it's not, because we brought things to you before, but it needs more discussion and
Right.
back and forth, which is just more easy to do outside of.
Yeah, so
everybody's
I'm
setting.
happy to do it, and I think.
I think
Liam-
Liam would be good as
Yeah.
a soils engineer.
Yeah.
Would be a
Yeah.
good person to, that's what you are, right?
I'm a civil engineer.
Civil
yes,
engineer.
That
Right.
works on
Even better.
soils.
That works on soils.
Engineer,
Soils
that's good.
engineers.
That's a new one.
Geotechnical engineer is a different.
It's a different thing.
It's
So
a-
you're a
it's the
civil
next level.
engineer who works on soils, i.e. an expert. This is an
Yeah.
expert. So.
But I think
and
the
not
research may, like the research on what the other cities
Right,
do,
that's
really,
still-
yes.
We have done that already, but we
Yeah.
could just make sure that it's still accurate.
Right.
Like I've dealt with these and other instances in, as the lot gets smaller, particularly, in the flats, the FAR goes up. So you don't have, again, in Heather Gardens, every time
Yeah.
there's going to be this issue of FAR.
And a lot of upset neighbors who are saying, why aren't we complying? Because.
Yeah,
it's
well,
so-
especially when with the Owlswood. when that's
Yeah.
gonna be.
So I think that would be,
So, okay,
Do we have to like move
Yeah,
to
let's-
approve
If we
of?
could just to have.
I'd like
you
to,
establish it.
oh, I can't make a motion, can I?
Sure.
Oh, I can, okay, I'll make a motion that we form a subcommittee to look at, yeah, you could have.
Maybe
Um,
it violates particular rules, but I think we're.
I would like to make a motion that we form a subcommittee consisting of Liam and Brock to look at the issue of slope use permits for ongoing discussion about potentially changing the rules regarding slope use permits.
No, not slope use
No,
permit.
slope use,
Floor area.
floor area ratio,
Yeah.
floor area ratio.
and I'll second that.
All in favor?
Can we vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I.
Yeah,
Aye.
Aye.
that's a good idea.
All right,
Right.
good. All right, so next item on the agenda is,
Next.
that's
meeting,
it. Next meeting is when?
May 13,
What's what? What do you?
May 13.
Okay.
You just have to turn the page on.
Okay. I know. Yes.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
Either we could get married or, I don't know, because it's, all right. Well, you have a husband, but, right, so let's make a motion for adjournment, please.
Already moved and seconded.
All right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all in favor, say
Thank you.
aye.
Aye.
Aye.